some organizations, they'll have somebody responsible for all the logistics. That's often the meeting planner, right? Many associations who do a fair number of events, they often have an event planner who actually understands how to source speakers, right? And they'll do their own research and come up with a list. Way back in the day, the only way you could find speakers was actually by going to a bureau, right? And you go to the bureau and say, listen, we're doing an event on such and such. Can you please provide three potential speakers for us to choose from? And the bureau would say, here you go. And you choose one of them and you pay the bureau, and the bureau takes a big cut. Of course, I've been hired, by bureaus as well, right? So very happy for the business. But a little thing happened, I don't know, 20 odd years ago or so, called the internet. And all the speakers ended up putting up websites saying they're a speaker. And by the way, here's all my credentials and everything. And as a result of that, the monopoly, if you will, on sourcing a speaker that speakers bureaus had um, became a lot more tenuous. Speakers bureaus had to find more ways to differentiate themselves. Some of them, for example, said, well, you know what, we're going to focus on the celebrity speakers, and people who need representation will have exclusive deals with certain speakers bureaus and not just represent a group of people. Because if a company is looking for a speaker and they find them directly on the speaker's website, and they've got several that way, I mean, Google is actually quite wonderful when it comes to that kind of thing. Um, why do we need to go to a speakers bureau? We could just choose who we want. And gee, if the speakers bureaus just has exclusive speakers, how do we know they're going to suggest the best one, that rather than just who happens to be on their roster? And so the speaker buyer will say, okay, well, let me just use Google, right? And let's just do some basic searching. It's not so hard to do. We've been doing it for decades now. On the other hand, speakers bureaus actually play a very, very important role. So, if somebody books me through a speakers bureau or books me directly, the fee is the same, right? I pay the speakers bureau a certain percentage of the fee just for the privilege of them doing all the work and the relationships they have. And there is a role for them, a very important role for them. But from the perspective, since we're role playing about, the person within an organization, so larger organizations basically have those skills in-house. They may not have how to organize an event, and oftentimes what they'll do is they'll outsource that to a meeting planner, right? Sometimes meeting planners, these external ones, also understand which speakers might be appropriate. They may have some suggestions. In the association space, it's very often there's a call for speakers, and the call for speakers would have speakers applying, and the committee would take a look at it and maybe select a couple that they might want to speak to or that people have got reference to. But once again, the big challenge there is, what kind of speaker do you actually want for your particular event? Do you want a celebrity, or do you want somebody who's going to use the platform to sell, or do you want an industry speaker? I'm not keen on the speak to sell part, but the best conferences typically have a mixture of a bunch of these different type of ones, right? You want to make sure everybody's an excellent communicator, which is where content speakers who motivate, like professional speakers, have got a role. But sometimes you want a celebrity. I went to I've written a bunch of books. I've written 8 books. I went to the book Expo America, and the keynote for that conference, and it was in New York years ago, was Bill Clinton. Well, Bill Clinton's fee, I think, is around $250,000, and he just regaled everybody, and there's thousands in the audience. And the only reason people were there is because not many people have a chance to hear Bill Clinton speak for an hour talking about his stories, right? Interesting. So there's a place for the celebrity speaker. There's a place for inspirational speakers, and there's a place for content speakers who motivate. There's a place for industry speakers, and where you go for each one of these ones is a little bit different, right? And the skills to actually decide which one to actually get, like which specific speaker to get. I mean, that's really what we're talking about today.